Hey everybody, this is John Q coming to you from San Diego Comic-Con 2014, and I am here with Matt Hawkins.
Hello.
Matt, I want to talk to you first and foremost about your newest book out, Think Tank. It was supposed to be initially 4,
Right.
then it went to 10, and now where are we going? We're keeping this going.
I've done 13 issues,
Okay.
and we're taking a brief hiatus, and Rasan and I are relaunching this series in April in color.
Oh, nice,
So,
in
yeah.
color.
We've initially, when we launched the initial 4, it was sort of a different book than what's normally on the stands, and it was sort of a passion project, and I honestly didn't expect it to sell. So we had planned it as a 4-issue miniseries and just be done with it, kind of something, an itch I wanted to scratch. And then it did better than we anticipated, but to warrant continuing, we wanted to try to get the sales up. And after talking to enough fans, they seem to be turned off a little bit by the black and white, so we're going to give it a shot in color.
Well, I've read them, and as I'm reading them, I'm amazed at the detail, the absolute detail of, and if you haven't read it, the detail of the projects that you're talking about that our government either is doing or was doing.
Right.
And here, let me let you tell them about the story, and then I'll add a couple things.
Okay, Think Tank is basically the story of a DARPA research scientist who's developing weapons for the military. He's been doing it for about 10 years now, and he decides he doesn't really want to do it anymore. You know, he sort of was seduced at a young age and got involved in this technology, working with people that were smart, and and so he really got really seduced is the right way to say it. Kind of like an athlete is kind of grabbed at a young age. They grab these genius level guys at a young age too. And so he goes into this world and starts developing these things. Flash forward 10 years, and he's like anyone else, is like, I don't really want to do this anymore. I've made a bad choice in my life. So he starts faking his research and kind of pulls a bit of an Oscar Schindler where he decides, I'm not going to create anything they can use anymore. And the military's not dumb. They realize what he's doing, so they send in a new colonel basically to work with the base to kick his ass into shape, and that's where the story starts. And he sort of, he decides he wants to quit and he wants to leave, but they won't let him quit.
Well, it reminded me of pretty much. Do you remember Val? You know Val Kilmer?
Genius.
Yeah, totally. That's reading it and just thinking of that. That's where it was. It's just, how everything that he wanted to do is for the right reason. And they started taking it and making it a weapon.
Right.
And he's like, I didn't sign up for this.
Right.
Now, in it, and for you, if you haven't read it, in everything he talks about, in the very back, there's websites. He's going to provide us with the websites so you can actually check it out and see for yourself. So I have a couple more questions for you. Let's see. How many projects right now are you juggling? And we've talked about a few off camera, but tell me what you have right now.
Well, that are actively being published, 3. That are not yet being published, another 7.
7.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm working on 10 different projects with a bunch of different people, and some of them won't be out for a year or 2. Some of them I'm not actually writing. I wrote an outline and I handed it off to another writer. And sometimes I have ideas for stuff that's not really in my strong suit, like comedy. Yeah. I tend to write dark drama, and there's some comedy in it, but it's a little more satirical. More Scrubs than like anything else. But so I work with a lot of people on a lot of projects, but I'm really trying to focus, and I don't mind being pigeonholed as a sci-fi science thriller writer because I love that stuff.
You're good. Again, reading Think Tank, you're very good at it. I understand about trying different things, but you're good at what you do.
Thanks,
I
man.
really liked it.
Thank you so much.
Enjoyed it. We all know Top Cow, Mr. Mark Silvestri.
Yes.
Who is literally sitting across from us.
Right over there.
Let me ask you, in the 20 years Top Cow's been around, how has it grown? Where has it gone? Where have you seen it come from and go to? And then where is it headed?
That's interesting. It's been through multiple iterations. There's from 92 to 95, it was sort of the Cyberforce, codename Strike Force Weapon Zero Company, which is derivative Marvel material, really. Cyberforce was sort of kind of an X-Men type book back then. Then we went into the Supernatural. I think Mark realized that he didn't want to try to compete with Marvel and DC on what they did best, so they went for Supernatural. They created Witchblade, Darkness, and did a number of other books, and that happened for a number of years until now everyone is doing Supernatural.
Yeah.
So in the last couple of years, we've made a shift to science fiction, and that was sort of an intentional shift. So We've picked up on occasion outside projects. I think for Top Cow, it's always been just kind of, it's a smaller imprint. We've never wanted to do tons and tons of books. I always see all these companies that come and go, and they'll launch 3-4 books, and suddenly they're doing 10, then they want to do 20, and then 10 years, then they're out of business. And it's just this rapid expansion. It's happened so many times since I've been around, and I've seen companies come and go. Future Comics, Techno Comics, CrossGen. I mean, there's the tombstones of all these dead comic book companies is kind of sad. But
that's the way you put it.
Well, and it's just like people they don't watch the overhead, and that's really it's a business at the end of the day, and we have to publish books that make money.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, that's definitely what we want to do. What do you have coming up 2014? What do you have coming up in the works that you're going to share with us now?
I'm working on Tales of Honor, which is an adaptation of the books that are being turned into a film. Continuing to do that. I'm working on the second arc of Think Tank. I'm finishing up my Wildfire series, which is similar to Think Tank. It's sort of a science thriller about genetically modified food and a potential disaster story involved in that.
Time. Genetically modified food.
Yes, sir. As
in what we're getting into with or what the big scare is now with it. You've taken that and you're writing out.
Yeah, I wrote an arc about accelerated plant growth that a science think tank is basically using accelerated plant growth as a means to try to thwart world hunger. But they have some problems. It gets out and causes literally wildfire of weeds that sort of cross Los Angeles, which then causes a real fire. And then havoc reigns. It's kind of a disaster story.
So you're just stirring the pot, aren't you? You're just stirring the pot.
Well, I love disaster films, but most disaster films are really stupid. But I love the movie Contagion. Contagion was such a smartly written film. I wanted to try to do something like that, but with kind of the possible dangers of GMO.
So getting back to your baby here, Think Tank, a couple questions that I have. That maybe they want to know. The research, you said you've been to DARPA, you said you have a friend that works there. How is that relationship working? Do you get information from him? You're like, hey, where am I going? What am I doing?
Well, those guys are highly regulated, so I'm not getting anything classified. I have had a couple of interesting conversations with people that I would say were probably government people. But I think if they do 5 seconds of research on me, my dad was a colonel in the Air Force. He was a patriot that put in 20 years, Vietnam veteran. My grandfather was a World War II veteran from Japan. And so I'm a patriotic guy. And I'm not doing anything, and for me, most of the stuff I'm doing is available on the internet. It's all freedom of information stuff. It's just being able to interpret it. The thing they don't like is when and what they discourage is doing application. Because it's the application of things that they're concerned about, because there's a certain level, like the guys who are using 3D printers to make guns and parts. Like the military right now is using 3D printers to make ammunition and to make spare parts for guns. And if you're in Kandahar in the middle of nowhere and you need a rare part for your gun, guess what? This 3D printer has the schematic already. You just make it. You take it, slide the bolt in, boom, your gun's working.
That is amazing. I couldn't even imagine myself. Here we go. Another question for you. What are your thoughts on the current influx of comic books and related properties being turned into television products, movies, and live action? What are your thoughts on those?
I think it's great. I think comics are a viable, ongoing media form. It's just like novels that are turned into films. It's just source material. I think there's more and more comics being made. This, what it is CGI has kind of caught up to what comics can do, and that's why you see so many of these Marvel and DC movies being made now. It used to be 20 years ago, comics was the only place you could show a guy throwing a planet around. Now you can do it. So film technology has kind of caught up to it, and I think it's exciting. I think a lot of film companies are using comics as R&D to see kind of what things will look like. That's really what the Tales of Honor book is. The film company hired me to develop a comic book because they wanted to kind of test the waters to see what it might look like.
If you could have any of your books be made into a movie, which one would it be?
Oh, wow. The Darkness. Not one that I wrote, but The Darkness to me would be a kick-ass film. Think Tank to me is a TV show. I've always in the back of my head envisioned it as a TV show. But The Darkness, I think, would make such an awesome movie. It's it's a sort of a gangster thing with supernatural stuff. Imagine Sopranos, but it's supernatural.
Nice. Well, I want to say thank you very much again. You know, you and I got a chance to talk off air about a couple things with Fort Meade and things like that. You know, being a hometown boy and that being right where I grew up, I loved the references to that. And you know, we all there know that that NSA isn't just the buildings you see on top. You know, there are all those secrets. So it's just kind of thanks for bringing a piece of what you have and showing the world what we live near. So.
Awesome.
You know, I really want to thank you, Matt, very
thank you.
much for taking the time and talking to us. And make sure that, you know, if you need anything for us, we will let them know. Just for you,
Okay.
we're on your side.
Pick up the tank.
Absolutely, make sure you do. This is Matt
Shameless
Hawkins. No, shame. Matt Hawkins, John Q, coming to you from San Diego Comic-Con 2014, and we'll catch you later.